Prati Roju Pandage, or Every Day is a Festival. Prati Roju Pandage is an entertaining movie that is full of humor. This movie is a 2019 Telugu drama romance movie. However, it should also be noted that it could be considered as a comedy movie as well. The story was written and directed by Maruti Dasari. This film stars quite a few people, but some notable names worth mentioning are Sai Tej, Satyaraj, Rasi Khanna, Rao Ramesh, Murali Sharma, and Vijay Kumar. The acting was really good, especially Rao Ramesh's exceptional performance. The actors executed the emotional scenes as well as the comedy scenes well and made the viewer feel more strongly about the characters. They either really liked them or really disliked them. This story revolves around family. You see, Raghu Ramaya, played by Satyaraj, is an elderly person diagnosed with lung cancer and only has a few weeks to live. Sai, his grandson, hears this and comes to India to help his grandfather live his last few weeks happily, all while trying to unite the family once more. It's not a new storyline, but the way it was executed was different from the other movies. Each character in the film managed to bring some sort of comedy to the table, whether it be using sarcasm or misinterpreting what one meant. The characters provided a comedic story to watch. Even the smaller characters did a nice job at making the story just that much better. There was good character development in the film. The bulk of that development, however, came in the last 20-ish minutes of the movie. This movie focuses on how a parent feels at the end of their lifetime and how they feel when their children can or cannot make enough time to see them in their last moments. It also focuses on when one is successful in life, they shouldn't forget who helped them get to where they are. The movie also features the lessons of don't forget about your parents and don't forget to show that you love them. Also, you could argue that the theme of celebrating your last days instead of sitting around waiting for death is shown in the movie as well. Prati Roju Pandage was a really entertaining movie that had a fresh, modern touch. It presented an important theme in a comedic way. Although the second half of the movie was a bit repetitive, nonetheless, the movie was still entertaining. The dialogues throughout the film provided comedy and interesting situations that resulted in a good laugh. Towards the end, the dialogues were more focused on getting the main themes of the film across. Even then, there were still some lines that provided comedic relief, adding to the comedy aspect of the movie. The cinematography was pretty good. Some scenes were taken at clever shot angles. The editing was good as well. The use of different colored frames to represent the past and present so that the audience knew what time period they were looking at represented one of the many editing positives. Also, the transitions between scenes was fairly smooth, which made the story easier to follow. The lighting was great. The use of natural lighting along with the artificial lighting was good at setting the mood and making scenes more emotional or lighthearted depending on what the director was going for. The narration in the beginning and end did a nice job at laying the foundation of the movie and closing the movie out respectively, although there was no narration in between. The music was decent as it stayed within the context of the film for the most part. However, some songs didn't really meet expectations or they just sounded not that good. The sounds in the background did a nice job of setting the tone and mood of a scene and the characters in that scene, but the sounds and the music in the film were repetitively used. Some critiques I had were that the plot got a bit muddled towards the end, causing some confusion as to how the story worked out. There were also minor details that could have been cleaned up. The use of foreshadowing in certain scenes was clever. It wasn't so obvious that the audience could recognize what was going to happen next, but it was enough to make the audience wonder why that scene was put in place. There were also well-choreographed fight scenes, although they represented the typical Indian hero. The typical Indian hero, for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, is basically a person who can beat 50 people coming at him with knives using a simple stick. That stereotype is represented pretty well in the few fight scenes that were in the film. The romance between Sai Tej and Rasi Khanna was also interesting and presented good humor too. All in all, the movie is entertaining and one that you can watch with the whole family. The comedy is good and the dialogues were well written. The cinematography and editing, along with the lighting, were all pretty good. The actors' portrayal of their characters was really good as well. The plot wasn't anything spectacularly new, but the way it was executed was definitely unique, making it stand out a little from other films that have a somewhat similar feel. Now, in certain times, the plot did get a bit shaky, but the overall entertainment value definitely makes up for it. So, at about 2 hours and 26 minutes, this movie is worth the time if you're looking for a feel-good movie that has comedy dispersed throughout the story. In the end, I'd give it a 3.5 out of 5-star rating.